Hello students, this is Professor Faiz Raut from Jain College of Engineering, Department of MBA. This lecture is about third module of the subject Legal and Business Environment. In the previous two modules, we have studied about Contract Act and Companies Act. In the first module of Contract Act, we have studied about essential elements of a valid contract. What is a consideration, a benefit for both the parties who are in the contract, law of agency, who is an agent, who is in principal, how to create that agency, how the principal and the agent create those agency, and how the agency is terminated by different types. Whereas in the second module, we talked about the definition of the company, the characteristics of a company, lifting of corporate wheel. What are the different kinds of company? Private company, public company, holding company, subsidiary company, government company, and many more. We dealt about how to form a company, how the formation of the company, what are the documents needed, what are the documents need to be submitted to the registrar of companies, and all those things. The two main documents we discussed about Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association, in which you will be doing assignment. In Memorandum of Association, there were 6 clauses. Okay, 7th one was the additional for the one-man company, which we have talked about. Articles of Association, in this is the internal management of a company, whereas the Memorandum of Association, we talked about the external management, meaning how the external people will make use of the documents of your company. For example, the name of your company, what are the businesses you can enter into that company. Okay, all those things were discussed in Memorandum of Association, whereas in Articles of Association, all the internal management will be discussed. And lastly, in the second module, we talked about directors, their appointment, their removal, and how many directors can be there in one company, the meetings of the board of directors and all those things. And finally, a few things about auditors. What are the powers of auditors? What are the duties of auditors? All those things. To go further, in third module, we are going to discuss about oppression, mismanagement, and investigation, which is being carried out in a company, different kinds of meetings which is being carried out in a company. Basically, these are meetings are for public limited company. We are going to study that. Then there is corporate liquidation, or you can call it as winding up of a company, closing down of the company, all those things. Before I start explaining about oppression, mismanagement, and investigation, I want to talk about one more important document of a company, which is called as Prospectus. A long definition. I'll not go through this definition. I want to explain you what is a prospectus. So to explain this, just recall what is a private company. A private company is a company where the shares of those company cannot be sold to public. Its shares are limited to the members of the company. Whereas in public company, the shares of these companies can be sold to public. So the shares of these companies are listed on stock exchanges of the country. So when a private company wants to become a public company, then it needs to go through a process of an IPO. It stands for Initial Public Offering. In this process, a private company offers the public the shares of that company. This process starts with preparation of prospectus. Now, why a company prepares a prospectus? Prospectus gives information about private company which is being offered to the public, so that the public can go through the company, who are the management team, and what kind of securities are offered, what is the price of the securities, and using those funds what the company wants to do for the future. Okay, what are the future plans of the company? What the company will do with that money? And other decision making information. All these things are put into prospectus, and that prospectus is given as a public document so that the investors who are planning to invest in the company should be attracted by these information which is mentioned in the prospectus, and then the process of IPO can be successful. And after the process of IPO, a private company becomes a public company. So this prospectus is very important. The information in the prospectus is very important. To begin with, these are the three major contents of a prospectus. Matters contained in Part 1 of Schedule 2 of Companies Act, matters and reports contained in Part 2 of Schedule 2 of Companies Act, and some disclosure by the SEBI. To start with the first one, matters contained in Part 1 of Schedule 2 of Companies Act, there are 6 points in this. First is about general information. General information is just the name, address of the company, who are the directors, who are the auditors, what is the opening price, what is the closing price of the issues, then name, addresses of the trustees, debentures, trust deeds, and all those things. And general information. The capital structure of the company will comprise of what is the authorized capital, issued capital, subscribed capital, and what will be the paid up capital of the present issue. All those things, the planning of all those things will be mentioned in the capital structure. The third is terms of present issue. And this is about terms of payment, about the rights of the instrument holder or the equity holder who will be buying the shares. His rights will be mentioned. Particulars of the issue will be the objects of the issue, the project cost, the means of financing the issue, including the contribution of promoters. Fifth is about company management and project, the objects of the issue, the cost of the project, and finally the stock market data. Now in the second part, the general information will be about the directors, auditors, advocates, expert managers, their consent, and the time allotted for the issue of these certificates, of the share certificates which we are talking about, and the financial information of that company, auditor's report, accountant's report. And the last one was statutory. What is the minimum subscription required? Then what are the expenses, the underwriting commission. Then in the third one, which is about disclosure as per Securities and Exchange Board guidelines, this is as per the guidelines of SEBI. The company needs to give a detail of the actual expenditure on any project, the details of bridge loan, turnover of a company, statements of assets and liabilities, and all those things. So all these three things of a prospectus are very important. The information in the prospectus should be very true, correct, and as per the guidelines of SEBI. Because when investor is going to invest in the company, the information provided by the company should be very true. Therefore, any misstatement in prospectus, any misinformation in the prospectus is liable on the company. So all material facts relating to the nature of the company must be truly, honestly, and accurately disclosed in the prospectus. Any misrepresentation or concealment of any material fact, the company is responsible. And what are the liabilities for these misstatement is: every person who is connected with the issue of prospectus which contains untrue statement is liable for loss or damage suffered by the person who has subscribed for the shares or debentures of the company on the faith of the prospectus. That means the investor who is planning to invest in this company has put a faith as per the prospectus. And the people who have made this prospectus, the promoters or the directors or the auditors who have signed on that, they are liable for any damage caused to the investor. Okay, these liabilities are of two types: civil liability and criminal liability. If anything in the prospectus is misstated or it is not included, it is omitted out by mistake, then it comes under civil liability. If anything purposefully is being put, a wrong information has been put, any untrue statement has been put, then that comes under criminal liability. Okay. This is all about prospectus.